74.2%. That's not the number of friends that I've lost over the past 2 weeks for speaking my mind. That's the number of people who didn't bother, for whatever reason, to vote in yesterday's Stratford and Urmston by-election, which is a suburb of Manchester. Of the people who did vote, 69% of them voted for Labour, so it was a bit of a landslide for Labour. But what that means is, this is the interesting thing to me, what that means is, for those people who live in Stratford and Urmston, who have now voted in their representative for their local community to the Houses of Parliament to represent them, that person, that Labour candidate, was selected by just 17.8% of the people who live in Stratford and Urmston. Now, just let that sink in for a second. Through your inaction, you are now represented by a Labour Party member, and we know that the big parties are pretty affiliated to big corporate interests and big other interests. And you know, if they're both wings of the same bird, and you will know that if you actually wrote to your MP, as I did many times. I wrote to Sarah Dines, my MP locally here for the Conservative Party, over all these COVID things. All I got was pretty much a standard Cabinet Office issued diktat response, which didn't actually address any concerns at all. It was just basically shut up and go away. So we now have a parliamentary system, and apologies for speaking about so much politics and law at the moment, because I know it's a huge turn-off. No one's interested in politics, no one's interested in law, and yet it's politics and law that keep the system locked in place. They are the very things that keep the false matrix having its power over the people. I really urge you, start getting interested in how the false matrix holds power over people. Because to me, the legal system is the main generator of fear. Oh, can't do that, going to get into trouble, going to get arrested, can't speak out, oh, got to be careful, don't want the police coming round, don't want any trouble, don't want to have to go to court, don't want to have to get involved in lawyers' expenses. No one knows about common law. And of course then we have laws being made, legislation should I say, being pushed through by these huge parties which are not acting in the interests of the people. They're not acting in the best interests of the people. They're acting in the best interests of the big corporate interests. And as far as I can see, unless we somehow pattern interrupt this steamroller which is coming through on every level, so obviously politics is just one pattern interrupt, and of course common law is another huge pattern interrupt possibility, as well as all other forms of people power like rallies and marches and all other ways of speaking out, even though our ability to speak out is being restricted big time, not just by big social media platforms. I mean, just look at how I've been annihilated for speaking out in the Freedom Alliance by people who are supposed to be part of the freedom movement. Everything I have spoken about has been about people power, about truth, and about freedom. Nothing else. Nothing else. I only ever speak to those themes: truth and freedom, and power of the people, and moving the power away from a small elite and give it back to the people. But of course, all of these structures and systems, like political parties, they're set up with an elite. So who gets to make all the decisions? The elite. So the political party, the way that the parties are structured, and they have to be structured according to the Electoral Commission, they replicate the very system which is what we are standing against, where a small group of people have power and abuse that power and use that power to control. So I feel very strongly about this. So please don't switch off because I'm talking a lot about law and politics and it's just boring. No, this is really crucial. The other ways that the system keeps power over the people, firstly, is health. And actually, it's not health, it's sickness. keep people permanently sick, keep people depressed and ill and disempowered because they're not in that place of well-being and radiant health. It's interesting actually, because on the way to the park with Kobe, walking Kobe, on the way here a lady asked me if I would help her with doing up a padlock. She was having a bit of trouble. Anyway, we got chatting and she said, oh, I've got a lot of problems with my heart, you know, it's because of COVID, you know, and you know, I had COVID and you know, my heart hasn't been right since. I think COVID must have done it. I said, are you fully? She says, oh yeah, I'm completely fully. Yeah, no, I've completely had every. So, you know, and I didn't want to obviously point out the connection between the and side effects. There was no connection. There was no connection in her mind that it could have been that were the reason for her heart condition. So health is a big one. Education is another huge one, because education, as we know, is an indoctrination system. It's a kind of form of brainwashing. So in the education system, we are instilled with these limiting beliefs, which are, unless you have conscious awareness of, you start living your life according to these limiting beliefs. Kind of simple things like money doesn't grow on trees. My mum used to say that. Money doesn't grow on trees. Oh, you got to work hard to be successful. Oh, you got to work hard to be successful. Well, my experience of all these things, they're just not true. They're just not true, but we carry around so many limiting beliefs, and they're instilled in us by the education system. So what if, folks, rather than talking about politics, what if we spoke to people's illness? What if we spoke to people's depression? What if we spoke to people's belief in scarcity? The fact that there's not enough, or there doesn't seem to be enough. All these limiting beliefs, there's not enough. What if we actually started speaking to some of the causes of the pain and suffering amongst the people? You know, why are you ill? Why is everyone so ill? It's funny because I don't often listen to Radio 4, but I was in the car going to collect MJ from Manchester Airport, and it was drive time, so I thought I'd listen in to Radio 4. And they had an expert on there, and he was saying, oh, it's so strange because statistically speaking, the number of people ill and dying has gone up massively since 2019, but the pandemic's over, everyone's... It shouldn't be that way. Well, no, no, it shouldn't be that way. So why is it that way? Well, it's so obvious, and I'm not going to say the obvious thing, because you all know why. But let's start speaking to why are so many people ill? Why are so many people depressed? Why are so many people on the poverty line? Why is there so much unhappiness? Why aren't people allowed to speak out? And why, when I speak out, am I attacked and belittled and ostracised? Even by people in the freedom movement. Why? It doesn't make any sense, does it? It's because of the programs which we all have running. So what if we could re-engage that 74.2% of people and inspire them to believe that they do have power, that they have power to change things, that they have power to change the political system, that they have power to make an impact? What if everyone was energized to feel their voice matters, their vote matters? I mean, I've had a lot of pushback, shall we say, from kind of hardcore people in the freedom movement of like, politics is not the way to go. And I agree that party politics in the current system is pretty much broken. But what I do believe is that by going into that system and speaking out within that system, we have an opportunity to pattern interrupt the system. Everyone who stands as a candidate in a by-election, a constituency election, has the right to a leaflet drop to the entire constituency. So in the Derbyshire Dales constituency, that's 68,000 people. Any party which is fielding 100 candidates or more, so there's 650 constituencies in the UK, so if you field candidates in 100 constituencies, you get a free party political broadcast. So These are ways that the message can be got across to people. I mean, folks, I'm not saying I hold all the solutions, but we have to keep trying. Imagine if all 74.2% of those people who couldn't be bothered to go and vote all voted for someone who was independent or someone in the Freedom Alliance who was there to represent the people. Imagine if the Houses of Parliament were flooded by representatives of the people and not representatives of the big corporate interests and the big parties. Imagine that. Imagine all those voices speaking out and saying, oh, hey, no, this is wrong. Can't do this. We don't want to control everyone through a digital ID system, social credit system where everything is digital. We don't want a national sickness service that is ruled by Big Pharma. We don't want an education system that suppresses the power of the people. We want to encourage our children and empower them and inspire them and encourage them to speak out. So no matter how hopeless the current system seems, I do believe it's possible. If we come together and we collaborate, we can co-create a different way of being, a different way of running things, if we can come at it from every different angle. So I will keep speaking out. I will keep speaking my truth. I know that it is resonating with many people. Truth has a resonance. That is far more important than numbers at the current time. And I know that from having done a huge amount of medicine work. Small groups of people with a common purpose and intent, creating a vortex of energy, a torus field. Hugely powerful. Look at all the power that is contained in a seed. I say this often. You know, there's an entire forest in an acorn. It doesn't have to be big to be powerful. I do believe that we are in a period of massive change. I encourage you all, don't lose hope. Your voice counts. Your vote counts. You count. You matter. Every one of us. Imagine a society where everyone's voice is fully heard and everyone is fully looked after, and we care for people's health rather than keeping people sick through all of these big pharma interventions. Don't be part of the 74.2% that can't be bothered. Keep speaking out. Keep making your voice heard. Keep making a difference. Together we are strong. Together we are powerful. Lots of love. Bye for now.